I think I will. Good advice, Darrell. I had kind of a dizzy spell during Sunday school, so we'll see how this works, but I think it should be a blinking red light. Good. Yep, I appreciate that because I've done it myself before and done it wrong. My message today is what love is and what love is not. And this being the fourth Sunday of Advent, we focus on love. And my scripture that I'm going to read today isn't normally something you would associate with Christmas, but I think it's applicable. So let's look at what love is, and perhaps more important, what love is not. Our scripture today is 1 Corinthians 13, verses 1 through 13. And I would suggest you've heard these verses many, many times. I speak in the tongues of men and angels, but I have not love. I am a noisy gong, or clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but I have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, if I deliver up my body to be burned, but I have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecy, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, and I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I gave up my childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I've been fully known. So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love. And as I said, I've heard so many messages on that chapter, and I've often wondered, is there anything else that can be said? Because I am suspicious that if you've been in church more than a few years, you've probably heard 15 to 30, maybe even 100 of these messages on that scripture. But I want to look at these scriptures in a little bit different perspective. I want to see, what does the Bible say love looks like? And what does the Bible say love does not? First and foremost, love is patient and kind. Sounds good. We've all heard that before. But what does patient and kind really look like in real life? Well, I believe that Paul kind of explains that by telling you what being patient and kind is not. It isn't boastful. I am happy for others and that may be in a little bit better situation than myself. On the flip side, I do not boast if God has blessed me. Love is all about focusing on others more than myself. It is being patient with others who don't grow like I think they should. This focusing on others is not something that really comes naturally, at least not to me. It's an attitude that must be learned and cultivated. And I'd love to say that I've conquered this, but I would be lying. But I know God is working on me, and I know He's willing to change me. And so that I hope through growth, through Christ, my attitude will eventually become more loving and more natural. Paul goes on to say that love is not arrogant or rude. And I really wish that these would be easier to avoid than they are. I really don't know anyone who intentionally goes around being arrogant and rude. However, it shocks me how often, if I'm not careful, it just slips out. After all, when I see somebody stupid on the road, how often do I go, "What an idiot"? That would be my arrogance, judging another driver, forgetting that I have probably made those same mistakes a few times myself. Rudeness is, again, something we can do without even realizing it. Paul cautions us so that we exhibit love. We must be constantly checking our words and our actions to ensure they don't fall into those habits. Again, rudeness is rarely intentional, but it is often the side effect of a bad or hectic day. It creeps in, and I'm rude before I even know I did it. And then it's too late, because I've already become rude. Next, Paul warns me that love does not insist on its own way. Now, I don't know about you, but this is about where I start to squirm. Because you know what? I don't think I want to admit to always wanting my own way. And so I'll start playing somatic games. I didn't really insist on it, I just preferred it. Or, of course I want my way, it's the right way. We do all sorts of rationalization. And I will say, even after all the rationalizations, all the somatic games, I am left with a stark truth. I wanted my way. Understand that Paul is clearly saying this is not what love looks like. Love means surrendering my desire to get my own way. Sometimes the most loving thing I can do is to surrender my need to have my way. Is that easy? No, not at all. But it is possible. And again, it's a process. Paul goes on to make it even worse. He says, love is not irritable or resentful. Now, I've never been irritable or resentful, right? And luckily Laura's not here, so you can't ask her, right? But the truth of it is, we've all been irritable and resentful. And I will tell you, if I examine myself really carefully, again, I find myself being these characteristics way more than I should. The truth of it is, if I've had a hard day or when I'm tired, I can think of another 50 lists and excuses of why I can rationalize my irritability or my resentment. But I don't really have to, because you all know them just as well as I do. We've all used them plenty of times. Anytime we've been caught being irritable or resentful, we've found a rational reason to explain why we are. The truth of it is, it's too easy to fall into these habits. And sometimes, without even realizing it, we embrace them. We cultivate them. And I think so often, it is harder to show love than it is to not. If you want help in this area, ask others to remind you when you do it. But I will tell you to be prepared. If you do so, it will be irritating. And how do I know that? Because it irritates me when people do it for me. The truth of it is, my friends, being irritable and resentful is part of our fallen nature. It's as natural as anything else. It must be addressed consciously, because if we don't, we fall into it. Paul just goes on. He tells me that love never rejoices in wrongdoing. Maybe this one will be a little easier. Maybe not. After all, don't we all love a little justice doled out? Criminals injured in the commission of a crime serves them right? I can't tell you how many times I've stopped a car for driving really badly and been writing him a ticket, and all the cars that car had been driving by doing bad things would honk with joy to see this person getting a ticket. They were rejoicing in a little justice. Were they wrong? No, perhaps not. Was it the loving way to respond? I would argue no, it is not. If you've been paying attention, you may have noticed a trend in these scriptures on love. They focus on others rather than myself. That shouldn't be mind-boggling when we're talking about love. It obviously should focus on others. But I think we consciously overlook that because it does become uncomfortable. No one wants to admit to being self-centered or self-absorbed. But this chapter clearly describes just exactly that kind of behavior as not loving. I don't know about you, but this message is making me very uncomfortable. And the reason it's making me very uncomfortable is I'm remembering all the times where I did not show love. So that's been a long and very uncomfortable list of things love is not. Let's switch gears and give us our abused consciences a little break. Let's see what a few things love is. Love rejoices with truth. That doesn't seem hard, does it? What if truth says something I don't like? What if truth requires me to look at these previous verses and recall the times that I've exhibited non-loving behavior? Do I still rejoice in that? I don't know about you, but it becomes reluctance at that point. I love that we Christians are called to be accountable to each other. But I must warn you, to be accountable means hearing things that are uncomfortable and irritating. I have never rejoiced being told I was wrong. Yet throughout my Christian life, loving Christian brothers and sisters have spoken truth in love when they saw issues in my life that were not in line with my Christian faith. Does that make me uncomfortable? Absolutely. Occasionally, it even made me angry. But I will tell you that I have been rebuked in love. I've also been rebuked without love. And I'll let you guess on which one lasts longer, which one takes to my heart further. If you're going to rebuke me, do it in love. Even loving rebuke can cause instant anger and rejection. But the fact that it is delivered with love causes you to consider it even more seriously and not reject it immediately, because you see that it was delivered with love. I'm a better man today because truth was spoken in love, even when it hurt. And so will you. Paul goes on to say that love bears all things. Easy words to read quickly and then move on. I know because I've done that many times. What does it really mean to bear all things? It means I cease to hold on to the wrongs done against me. It does not mean allowing others to abuse you. It does not mean I can and do let go of these wrongs without holding on to but it does mean, let go of those wrongs without holding on to animosity and hurt. I released God to do that. And doing so will be an act of love. To be honest with you, friends, this is one of my harder ones. I do not let go of things easily. I hold on to grudges. I was trained to, and I would suggest that most of us do have that same issue. Letting go and let God is the answer. But I don't believe it's an easy answer. Paul goes on to say, love believes in all things. Now, these words are not suggesting that we become gullible, but rather that we put aside our judgmental attitudes. Many times as a Christian, I let my judgmentalism cloud my view of others. I would find myself saying things, they will never make it to heaven. They will never change. In thinking that way, I refused to see God's ability to change them as he had changed me. Today, I see no one beyond God's reach. No one who is hopeless. This allows me to approach those folks with love rather than a judgmental attitude that I once held on them. And trust me, I was a very judgmental person. And it can still creep back if I'm not careful. Love hopes all things. This is a great follow-up to the previous one. Do I pray for others with the hope of seeing God working in their lives? When I was a young teenage boy and first coming to the church, I suspect many of the people in that church saw a young teenage boy that was very messed up. And I probably, rightfully so, looked beyond hope. There were just too many things in my life that had messed me up, that had gone wrong. And I think, looking back, some of those people had to go. That boy does not have a future. There is no hope for that boy. He's too far gone. But instead, good, loving Christians did not give up hope on me. That result is me standing in front of you today. I am a very example of what can happen when Christians lovingly hope for each other. God can and does do miracles, as Janet was saying. And some of those miracles in the change of human hearts. Finally, love endures all things. Yes, it really does mean all things. Even the horrific, the true evil. True love never surrenders to the desire for revenge or a clouded view of justice. I am called to love my fellow man without any caveats. Does that sound impossible to you? It did to me. But God started slowly teaching me that he can and does change. That he can get you through anything. I suspect this is probably one of the hardest lessons of love I've had to learn in my life. Because as I said, much of my early life was not very loving. I was very judgmental. I was everything that love was not. It was hard to change. At least it was until I realized who my role model for love was. Jesus Christ. He came to earth to a people who rejected and mistreated him. Ultimately, they killed him. And even as he was dying, his prayer was, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. I think Christmas is a wonderful time to reflect on the love of God and how that love should impact how I relate to others. I think we see a lot of problems in Christmas time, but I would argue, my friends, that if we loved more, if we embraced God's love more, we would see a different world than what we are living in. We would see transformations happening that we do not see in people right now. I won't say that it's easy. I won't say it's a simple process. But I will say God can and does make that happen in us. I challenge you today, Laura, to look at God's love and to share that love with those around you. Thank you.